Hello everyone, my name is Sierra and I will be talking about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP for short. TPP is a partnership trade deal between the United States and 11 other Pacific Rim nations. The agreement was signed in 2016 and represented roughly 40% of the world's economic output. In short, this pact was set out to strengthen the economic ties between the nations, reducing tariffs and emerging trade to increase the growth of the economy. The TPP was a product of at least 5 years of negotiations and was a huge step for President Obama, who pushed for a United States foreign policy pivot to the Pacific Rim. The members also worked to gain further regulation and policies, and the end goal was to have a market that was equal and the same in all nations. The populations of the nations members of the TPP would have doubled the amount involved with the European Union's single market, which was a huge concern for other countries, but a giant benefit to the ones included. The deal included Canada, Chile, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Peru, Singapore, Vietnam, Australia, the United States, and Brunei. There was work towards environmental protection, workers' rights, and regulatory coherence between the 12 nations. Because of Donald Trump's election, he did not support the partnership, and the United States will be removing themselves from the partnership. This came as a huge shock to most of the members involved because President Barack Obama was such a huge advocate for the TPP. And Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was also quoted in saying, "A TPP without the United States would be meaningless." In a nutshell, the TPP was set up so that the United States could be a blocker for China, so that China cannot dictate all the surrounding countries into doing things their way, running their economy their way, and only trading in the way that they see fit. So the United States was acting in a check and balance for this system as well as for itself. The major concern here for the general population is that the environmental concerns were not really there, and that it would take away the jobs from the United States and outsource them to other countries. And also, although China is purposely excluded from drafting decisions or ideas in the partnership, it is noted that others can join once it is drafted and sent through, which we're still not sure will happen because the United States is no longer included. There's an effect on our economy here that has to do with international trade. So international trade is the buying and selling of imports between one or more countries. It shapes our everyday lives and the world we live in, and practically everything we use or buy can be shifted from another country. We get Nike shoes from China, plasticware from Japan, clothing from Mexico, and adult beverages from Germany. There are not many things that we have now that aren't made somewhere else and shipped in for cheaper. So what would it do if we stopped trading goods with China and other foreign nations? Well, there are a few things that could happen. We would lose a lot of revenue, and the process of labor is not cheap, and if we are able to ship out a lot of our goods, it cuts down on the labor costs we do have. It also puts a halt in many other obstacles, such as industrial equipment, consumer goods, oil, and agricultural products. International trade allows countries to have a break and not have to do all the heavy lifting themselves. The Trans-Pacific Partnership relates well to this because now that President Trump has decided the United States is not joining, certain countries could choose not to trade with us. However, this is very unlikely because it's not like most people are just going to pull away from the United States because we're not stepping in to do a bigger part. It was also apparent from the class lecture that mercantilism was a proper fit when looking at the theories. It's an economic system developed to unify conflicting interests in economic exchanges. It looks for the best possible outcome for the distribution of wealth between countries, as well as the balance of trade. This is fitting for the TPP because the 12 countries involved are looking to increase the trade system, but to do so in the best possible way for everyone to be represented fairly and not have China stepping on their toes. The members of the partnership do believe that they are looking for the best outcome for the wealth development of countries. Liberalism just didn't seem like a proper fit here for this theory because of the large aspect of how many countries are involved. But it did relate with globalization, which is the process of increased interconnectedness among countries, most notably in the areas of economics, politics, and culture. If you take any children's toy at Walmart, if you look at the bottom of the box, where is it from? Most likely China or Mexico, and the rare Brazil. It doesn't usually say made in the United States, and just like international trade, there's really no telling if globalization, international trade, or the Trans-Pacific Partnership are good for the economy. There's many pros and cons that affect globalization and the TPP. The pros will be different for every country depending on where they live and what they have. The main ones are the amount of money that is taken into developing countries, which is good because the countries that are increasing their economy are also able to pull people out of the slums. When people are working for 10 cents an hour, there's not really potential for them to come out of where they are now. And trade deals like this increase economies. There will also be those in favor of dealing with the foreign countries and those who are against it. If you look at our most recent election, if you were a potential Trump supporter and followed his campaign very closely, you would know that most people didn't like to work with foreign outsourcing because they were afraid it was going to take our jobs. However, this could happen. It's not likely that every single job we have now will be outsourced. And once in office, President Trump did sign the movement to exclude us. However, there is potential that we could join back in. And lastly, just the Trans-Pacific Partnership was a perfect fit for international trade just because of the amount of countries involved in the partnership.